Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. The Fed loses monopoly, and this is a great reset. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.92 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's flat right now. Bitcoin 110,000 plus, Ethereum 4,400 plus, XRP back at the number 3 spots, 285. Now we're off 0.5 on the 24, and we're still off 5.3 on the 7-day. Let's take a look at this really quickly here. We could bounce back and forth between that number 3, number 4 spot for a second until we get some of this actual fundamental news moving the market. And let's talk about those rate cuts. We're going to get into that in a second too. Currently ranging on XRP price between 282 and 288. Now this is starting to tighten. Normally in a very normal market, XRP will trade between a cent or a cent and a half. So we're seeing that trading range kind of slow, right? It's not as moving around as much, even though it's a little more than normal. For me, I'm waiting for rate cuts. For me, I'm waiting for the Clarity Act to get motion and a vote and then get passed and signed into law. All those things. I think we all know what's in front of us. But nonetheless, I will say that this price right here has technical analysts suggesting now that it's not quite as bullish as they need to see it. And they'd like to see it close a little higher. So it could invalidate some of the things that we've been talking about. Now, for myself, who's a big fundamental guy, which means I'm always looking for the things that will move the market, right? Like the things I just mentioned, the legislation, the rate cuts, banking license for Ripple, so on and so on, ETF approvals. All those things are the things that move markets. So that's what I'm looking for. Now, as I look at this, I can be confident because I know that those things are in front of us. But look, before we get started, let's remind everybody of this, because since 2011, $22.7 billion worth of assets have been stolen. Ah, unbelievable. And I tell you, you could go to iTrustCapital and open a PCA. And if you haven't opened an IRA, what are you waiting for? They have the best crypto, gold, and silver IRAs on the planet, bar none. And now they've taken the steps to create a closed loop system known as the premium custody account. Look, I keep my assets in a couple different places, and you guys know that. And the reason I do that is my creed foundational principle to investing. I use iTrustCapital because it makes me feel good, because I get institutional grade custody. I get award-winning US support. They got 1% trading fees. You got no monthly fee, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing. And what they've done here, because there's so many hacks and scams going on, they've tried to take a step further to help all of us from ourselves, because we can all get very relaxed and click on the wrong thing. I've done it. Everyone's done it. If not, you know someone who has, or you're just scared to death that you may do it. So all I'm saying is that this is going to bring you a lot of peace, because with this closed loop system, you can go in with your cash and crypto, trade 24/7, all the assets on the platform. But when you come out, you have to come out as cash to your US checking account. Now, with that being said, if you were hacked, that's the only thing that could happen. They couldn't take your crypto and move it to some other exchange or a cold storage wallet. They can't do it. So that's the beauty of this. And I tell you, if you're looking for that peace of mind, you just found it. itrustcapital.com/XRP Army. Use the code XRP6 at the bottom to get started today and start getting peace of mind. It matters. Now let's talk about this and get back to this, because I want to talk today about, you're going to hear Representative French Hill addressing a question about the Fed losing its monopoly. And this is exactly what we've been talking about, ladies and gentlemen, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. We're going to get into that and so much more. But right now, gold reaches new all-time highs of 3,560. Come on in. Gold is moving. Now, you guys have probably seen this before if you've been with me, but let me just give you this. This is Pippa Malmgren, economist and former presidential advisor, speaking about a new transformation happening in the monetary system. Just listen to this, and if you've heard it, bear with me because I'm going to take you through some information that I believe proves that we are in the middle of a global reset. Take a listen.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well.
And this is where we're going. Now, let me get moving. We got a lot to go through today. And then what did we hear the U.S. Treasury Secretary say? Right here. What did he say? Of course, now the drama's going from it because we got the buffering. Way to go, Bradley. As you can see, there's no editing on this channel.
And I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. There's something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back.
There you go, right there, right? It's all headed our way, ladies and gentlemen. And then I showed this yesterday with, President Putin and Xi and Kim from North Korea all coming together side by side, viewing China's largest military parade in Beijing. They're all coming together. They're making deals together, all of this stuff. And here, what do we see? President Trump putting the big question to answer whether President Xi, China, will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it to secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Listen to this. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America, President Trump. The BRICS coalition. Of course, North Korea is not in it, but there they are. They're a threat. They're a problem, right? I mean, this stuff is real, and we can't turn a blind eye to it. You can bet your bottom dollar President Trump isn't. In fact, I believe that's why that's why he's President Trump again. That I do believe that. I don't believe that someone else is going to have the strong enough backbone to get us through what needs to happen here. And we all have heard about debt cancellation, jubilees. Well, look what Smoke Dog's come across here. When government debt reaches unsustainable levels, it threatens nations' economic stability and future growth. And look at just some of the stuff that he's found with the talks of these leaders in the financial system and all this around the world. A global debt restructuring will probably be needed and could be a part of the big reset. And that's back in 2012, but nonetheless, here, and I don't think it was that far. I think he was quoting somebody after that. So at some point in time, even governments have to get rid of their debts. This will happen either through inflation, debt defaults, or debt cancellation. Such monetary resets have been the solution many times in the past. It could well happen again. Debt cancellations as being a part of the end game, right? Then you go into this, right? This is Smoke Dog again. Yes, the big reset of financial system is real. The global leaders confirm it. This is former ECB president, right? Take a look at this. New rules have been discussed not only inside the advanced economies, but with all emerging economies, including China. right? Come down here. And then you have this Precious General Manager of Precious Metal Department at ICBC. New global currency setup is being conceived. And this is all under the understanding that with the status of the US dollar as international reserve currency being shaky, this is why we're seeing stable coins and private issuers so they can absorb the bonds like a bulkhead, like a sponge. We talked about this in 24 on stage with Cristiano Carlo at XRP Las Vegas. The world is moving step by step towards de facto gold standard without any meetings of G20 leaders to announce the idea or bless the project. So you need to create a new one, and now is the time to do it. And that's George Soros' hedge fund, right? The global leaders around the world know what needs to happen. And here we see a call to cut rates. And look, I think the trouble we've had with rates being not cut is because we're going to get information, I've been saying it, but you're going to get information. Let's just hear about the rate cuts first. I tell you, I think this is happening, and I think it's over several years. It's not on a Tuesday, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe that this gets done during Trump's tenure as president this time.
For me, I think we need to start cutting rates at the next meeting, and then we don't have to go in a locked sequence of steps. We can kind of see where things are going because people are still worried about tariff inflation. I'm not, but everybody else is. So I would say over the next 3 to 6 months, we could see multiple cuts coming in.
Now, there's some saying that they won't go below 3%, so it might be quarter point, and that kind of vibe. But we'll see how this goes. Nonetheless, when rates are normally cut, all markets go really parabolic, right? They really do well because, you get the rate cuts and then people feel there's an opportunity to get back into markets and go again. Now, with that being said, we know also the Fed has announced that they will host a conference on payments innovation on Tuesday, October 21st. Now, this is interesting to me because that's right around the time we're going to get the ETF approval, if we're getting them. It's also very close to that banking license, which should be the end of October, early November. It's like a 120-day period, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Fed master account, right? So, and we should also around this time frame be very close, if not have the Clarity Act passed already. So this window of time hitting about payments innovation, and we know we're moving to a digital on-chain economy. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. Now, listen to this with French Hill right here.
Mr. Chairman, let me get your take on the digital assets legislation. You just mentioned the Genius and Clarity Acts. The Senate Banking Committee still discussing the framework for that Clarity Act. Senator Tim Scott chairs the committee, and he said that he believes there will be between 12 to 18 Democrats open to voting for a market structure on digital assets. How are you expecting this to play out?
Well, I've really enjoyed working with Kirsten Gillibrand and Cynthia Lummis, both who've been real leaders. Chairman Tim Scott in the Senate has put together a working group on the digital assets framework. The Clarity Act in the House, which I wrote, got 78 Democrat votes here in the House. Back in July, we sent that to the Senate with really a suspension level vote. We got such overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. I would hope that the Senate would consider taking up the Clarity Act in their process and simply making improvements to it. I think that would be a great approach. But Tim Scott and his working group and the leadership of Subcommittee Chair Lummis and John Bozeman on the Ag Committee, they all have this at a top priority, and I hope we can get this done in the next few weeks.
Let me get your take on what
Listen to this part.
Larry Lindsay says about this, Mr. Chairman, because the Lindsay Group out with a report saying widespread crypto adoption is not without consequence. And the firm writes that the ramifications of the Federal Reserve losing its semi-monopoly status as the supplier of money has wide implications that are often not discussed.
Do you hear that?
With a report saying widespread crypto adoption is not without consequence. And the firm writes that the ramifications of the Federal Reserve losing its semi-monopoly status as the supplier of money has wide implications that are often not discussed.
Now, that sounds like an independent agency sending the veiled threat through a messenger from the Fed, right? I don't know. That might be where the crash comes from.
At the Kansas City Fed Jackson Hole Symposium that I was at last week with Christine Lagarde, a lot of people were talking about this, including Fed Governor Mickey Bowman. And Mickey Bowman said she called digital assets a seismic shift in the way we think about money, value, and the fabric of our financial system. She said that if the Fed is unable to adjust to this new technology, it will bypass the traditional banking system. What do you want to say to people who are worried that if the depositors flee to blockchain, the cheap source of bank funding disappears, and it has a real impact on the banks?
Well, I think banks will offer dollar-backed stable coins as a new payment rail through their corporate treasury functions for businesses, and they'll offer it to consumers that have a demand for it. It's not widely accepted at the point of sale. So I think that's a long-term thoughtful position to take and think about the risk of that. But I anticipate a dollar-backed payment stablecoin being used mostly for cross-border trade. They don't pay interest. It's not meant to be a bank. It's a payment rail, like we use credit, debit, we send wire transfers, we use cash. A dollar-backed payment stablecoin is simply a new payment method, not a complete change in trying to make a stablecoin and turn a bank. Plus, those stablecoin issuers have to keep their assets in a bank or in treasury bills.
I love the idea, really, especially given what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said, and that is that it becomes a major purchaser of short-term treasury bills. As a result of all of that, what do you make of an ECB-run digital euro? I mean, Christine Lagarde told me she's working on this, even though there are lots of, upset over it because people think it's going to be a surveillance tool. But that also has downsides, right? Lack of financial freedom, privacy, surveillance issues, systemic risk, being European, all issues that, again, the Lindsay Group brings up.
I just met in Europe last week with the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. I also met with the financial regulators in Switzerland and in Germany, including a long meeting at the European Central Bank, the ECB, and listened to their presentation on what they're trying to propose for a retail CBDC in Europe. In other words, a digital euro.
Right.
I think in America, we've gone with the private sector. And in Europe, they're considering a government-driven process. And I made the point in those meetings that I think a private sector solution is better, more effective, and responds to consumer choice. I'm not sure consumers will find a digital euro, as acceptable as a private sector alternative.
And there you have it. The stablecoin wars are on. But, it really comes down to this. In the United States, the U.S. dollar has been the global reserve currency since 1944. Now we're at 80 or a little over 80 years at this point. And this is where we're at, right here. Something's got to be done. And they know it. And that's what private stable coins are all about, and private issuers to soak up those bonds, right? And then relieve us of the petrodollar agreement and the threat of other countries trying to harm our money. That's the transition, and it's going to take time because it took time in 1944, even though it was agreed upon to use the US dollar, it was still a competition period where they had to prove out, So this is interesting where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. It really, really is. And as Phil Kwok says here, the perfect storm is brewing. Fiat currency is no longer a store of value. Just look at how crazy inflation has become. Cryptocurrency with finite supply is a now genuine alternative to fiat. Just imagine what will happen when people realize these two very simple facts. And he's right. XRP has a finite supply. And when people realize that and understand that utility is the price driver of the network after legislation, I think it will handle itself. I really, really do. Well, listen, I don't want this to get too long, so not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone, and I hope you will join us today. We're going to tackle tariffs and where we are and where we may be headed. I hope you will join us. Click the link to join us inside. You could join us on YouTube. You could join us on Patreon or on X. All the same prices, all the same perks. And we appreciate each and every one of you that support the channel. We're going in right now. Come on in.